Labour are just a few days away from what will likely be their single most embarrassing showing since the 2024 election. Starmer won barely a third of the vote, less than a quarter of the eligible voters, and yet still ended up with a monstrous majority, but with no mandate to rule, no ideology to guide his actions beyond, giving away British territory to foreign powers, and with a distinct lack of charisma that can only really be matched by a snotty kid with a cold. It's perhaps no surprise that Labour's polling is bad. And Gorton and Denton is a true Labour stronghold. It's the sixth safest Labour seat in the entire country. In 2024, under Starmer, that uncharismatic mess, Labour got 51% of the vote. In 2019, under Corbyn, Labour received 67%. This is number 412 on the list of Reform UK targets at the next election, meaning Reform think there are 411 seats in the country where Reform have a higher chance of winning than in Gorton and Denton. And the amazing news is that obviously Labour isn't looking strong here. The betting markets show that Green or Reform are more likely to actually take the election, and if Labour lose their sixth safest seat in the country, it follows logically that the next general election will be a literal bloodbath for the traitorous Socialist Party. So today, we're going to take another look at a new video interviewing the people on the ground in Gorton and Denton and see why this seat is actually a terrifying look into the future for the UK under socialism and mass immigration altogether, but also why Reform are looking so strong countrywide. And if you want to stay up to date on the news, get the truth mainlined right into your veins with daily videos like this, like and comment under this video so the algorithm shows you my future videos, and of course, subscribe to the channel as well. And let's take a look at this.
If Reform got in here, it would be quite a monumental shift.
Start again.
What does being British mean to you?
Oh goodness, it's a big question.
This is a key question which Reform's candidate, Matt Goodwin, has been asking ahead of the election in Gorton and Denton. So what do you think it means to be British?
Born in Britain.
I think we've lost our identity.
Do you think Reform are racist?
The Muslim vote.
I would, yeah.
It's here that Andrew Gwynn resigned last year, leaving the space open. There are three key riders for the seat: Labour, Green and Reform.
We will speak for everybody.
I'm thinking of going for Reform. Matthew Goodwin imported material here.
I think the Labour have a good support for the immigrant people.
Andy
Really
Burnham,
quite
if he would have
incredible,
come,
this
I
video.
was going to vote for him. But if he's not there, I'm voting for Reform.
The seat is currently the sixth safest Labour seat in the UK. And so if Reform got in here, it would be quite a monumental shift and send a very clear message to Keir Starmer. So what do you think it means to be British?
Oh goodness, it's a big question. I think obviously everybody has their own definition. I would say it's about things like equality before the law, belief in free speech, individual liberty, respect for our history, our distinctive political culture.
I think that's the most important line there. Respect for history and political culture, our distinctive culture. At the end of the day, look, when the debate comes about what it really means to be British, it's kind of similar to what it really means to be French. You know, are Algerians who move to France and speak French but, hate France, are they really French? Well, there's a saying in France, which is basically French by papers. You're French by citizenship, by passport, but not by blood, not through your veins. And I see something very similar with Britain as well. Now, to clarify, I'm not one of these people who thinks that no immigrant can ever become British. I do think that English is an ethnicity, so no immigrant can ever become English because it's, literally in your genes. You're either born English or you aren't. But I do think there is a place for, immigrants to come into our country, to assimilate into our culture, to help make our country better, and then to become British over time. But it has to be around British culture. It has to be around the idea that actually it's very normal to go down to the pub and have a few pints with a mate and a Sunday roast and a dog walk in the countryside. This is what makes you British, not necessarily, British values, which is what the media loves to go on and on about, which apparently British values these days means not really caring when, immigrants are raping children or committing terrorist attacks.
Do you think you have to be white to be British?
No, I don't think you have to be white to be British. I think Britishness has always been a nationality that people have been able to identify with and embrace. So no, in my mind, I don't think Britishness is about race and ethnicity, no.
What about being English then?
Well, I think Englishness is an ethnicity, whereas Britishness is a nationality. So the reason we ask Americans, are you English, is because Englishness is an ethnicity on their census. So that's got a much more distinctive history. It's got a much more distinctive ancestry. And while technically it is possible to not be white and be English, Englishness refers to a very distinctive group that can trace its roots back on these islands hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. We know in the census that we have a significant number of people in this country overall who embrace what the census calls a non-UK identity. So they don't embrace Englishness and they don't embrace Britishness. They actually say openly they don't identify with the United Kingdom at all. I personally think that's problematic. It suggests that we have people who are not embracing our language, our values, our culture, our history.
I wanted to understand whether Matt was concerned if his narrow definition of Englishness risked alienating voters.
It's incredible how even one of the most right-wing press media outlets in the country, this is the Telegraph, by the way, even they struggle to just accept the simple truth that English is, I wouldn't actually say it's an ethnicity, I'd say it's an ethnic group, right? It's a mixture of ethnicities of Norman and Pict and Celtic and Anglo and Saxon and all the others, sort of melds together over 1,000 years. But even the Telegraph, one of the most right-wing press outlets in the country, even they say that that's a narrow definition of Englishness. That's not. That is the definition of Englishness.
How do you hope to win their votes within your constituency then?
Well, the one thing I would say about this campaign, the Labour Party's talking about the Labour Party, the Green Party's talking about Gaza, I'm talking about Gorton and Denton. The Labour Party is under police investigation for offering free food in exchange for political support, and the Green Party are distributing leaflets in Urdu and Punjabi while talking about the Muslim vote. They are two parties that are lecturing everybody else about division while being openly divisive. They are running their campaigns on communal lines, sectarian lines. I'm actually the only candidate at this election who's saying, I'm going to speak for everybody in Gorton and Denton. I'm going to speak for the whole community, not just one community, but the whole community. And I think that in itself reflects one of the ironies that's run through this campaign. You've got left-wing parties saying they're the parties of unity while being openly divisive. And you've got the Reform Party, which is often accused of being divisive, but is actually the unity campaign, saying we will speak for everybody.
I think it's very interesting when you take a look at Matt Goodwin's background as an academic, as a university lecturer and the like, because he's actually very different to the typical Reform Party candidate. He's very different to Zia Youssef, very different to Nigel Farage, in that he's eloquent and well-spoken in a political sense. He actually doesn't come across as particularly, in my opinion, likable or authentic in these sorts of interviews. Whereas when you see Nigel Farage at a press conference, it doesn't scream, politician. It doesn't look like he's reading off a teleprompter. It feels like he's just chatting to someone in the pub. Matt Goodwin's actually on the other side of that spectrum. Not always an awful thing. The great thing about that is the media class really appreciate that type of person, that personality, and they don't critique them as heavily as they do someone like Nigel Farage. And so someone like Matt Goodwin can really help with pushing a political force forward, but I do worry that he will struggle to resonate with just ordinary people like that.
Matt hopes that his focus on British and English identity will translate to votes in this election. But does that resonate with the people here in Gorton and Denton?
Here's the best part.
So what do you think it means to be British?
Born and bred.
To be proud of your heritage. Not sure anymore.
One of the things
This woman here is genuinely
Of your
terrified.
heritage.
She's genuinely too scared to even say what she thinks being British is, because the community she grew up in has been torn away from her, and it's been thrust into a multicultural mess, filled with crime and rape gangs and the like. Really, really sad to see that, but that's a very common thing these days. Young people not even knowing what it is to be British anymore because they've never really experienced Britishness.
Not sure anymore.
One of the things that Matt Goodwin's been talking a lot about is like Britishness and identity.
I do believe in that, yeah.
What do you think it means?
I think we've lost our identity. I do.
In what way?
Well, I think there's too many foreigners in the country trying to change the ways we live.
Do you
This
think
video alone is going to be evidence of that. You're going to be really shocked at some of the things that immigrants say when interviewed on the streets coming up.
Matt Goodwin is going to change things then?
Well, I don't think it'll change it in local, but when the general election comes and they get the Reform Party in or something, then perhaps then. Not at the moment.
But you would vote for reform?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
When do you think you changed your mind?
Keir Starmer changed my mind, and he's changed a lot of other people's minds.
Had you always been a Labour voter?
Yeah, always been a Labour, always.
From what I know, I think he just wants to get Asians out. Reform.
How does that make you feel?
It makes me angry because I've been here most of my life and I've paid my taxes, I've done my work, and I think this is my country and I'm British. So I don't want a party telling me I'm not British because of my skin colour. Yeah?
What do you think it means to be British?
British values.
There we are, that infamous word that we're seeing more and more every day. British values. What are British values? No one really knows. Respect for law and order, sure, but then if an Englishman commits a crime, are they no longer British? Well, that doesn't really follow, does it? Is it shared in or rooted in our Christian history? Well, obviously not, because as you're going to see, the vast majority of the immigrants that are interviewed here today aren't Christian, they're Muslim. British values doesn't mean anything, but it's been thrust upon us, again, by the media class, by the chattering classes, Keir Starmer and his ilk, because it allows people like this to claim an innate right to this country, despite the fact, he admits it, he's an immigrant. I've been here most of my life, he said. Not all of his life. He wasn't born here. His parents aren't from here. His parents didn't build this country. He's just emigrated and made it into his own.
What are they?
British values like, you asked me for my permission to vote. That's one of these things. Respect, mutual respect.
So again, mutual respect is what makes you British. Well, what about all of the Pakistani immigrants who committed heinous crimes against literally tens of thousands of women and children in our country, raping them in these gangs? Well, they clearly don't have mutual respect for one another, so clearly they're not British.
My understanding is Reform just wants white people.
Do you think Reform are racist?
I would, yeah, but I would say that. I've lost faith in Labour. I'm looking at the...
This is the other side of Gorton and Denton that's really interesting. It's Labour struggling to straddle the horse, to sit on the fence and to gather both the white working class vote and the immigrant vote. Because actually, these two groups are diametrically opposed to one another. They are not on the same side. They do not share the same British values. They don't actually want to live with each other, which is why we end up with these immigrant ghettos, like you see in a place like Gorton and Denton, where the constituency is literally split down the middle. Gorton, Denton, one side is immigrant, one side is white working class.
The Green Party, but I'm not going to vote for Reform.
And the immigrants are leaving mostly for the Green Party because they're stronger on Gaza, they're stronger on the sectarian Islamic issues, and the white working class are more often pushing towards Reform, voting right-wing, because again, they're stronger on issues that matter to the white working class, like the replacement of the English, the Scottish, the Welsh, and so on within our own country.
I'm thinking of going for Reform.
And how do you feel when he speaks about kind of immigrants and says, we need to stop the number of immigrants coming in?
Well, the thing is, it's just politics, to be honest with you.
This is a very
just to
interesting
bring
one.
something up to get people's attention. Not everybody's got 100%. So you give and take. So we're willing to give that way if he can make us proud of being British again.
Even just looking at the accent between this man and the last one, this one sounds much more Mancunian, is dressing much more westernized and European, and he's choosing to vote Reform despite the rhetoric the Reform push that is, anti-immigration, stop the boats, stop mass immigration, net zero immigration and the like. Whereas the other one is, got a very, very thick foreign accent still, probably, let's be honest, hasn't integrated into our society well at all, and yet he's voting Green, this one's voting Reform.
I'm nearly 57, 58, so we're working class people.
And you feel that Reform represents you?
Well, at the moment, we've got nobody else.
Who do you think you'll be voting for this time?
Labour.
I like your party a lot, Jeremy Corbyn's.
Muslims make up about 30% of the electorate here in Gorton and Denton, so they're a really important part of the voter base. Are you going to be voting next at the election? Who do you want to win?
I mean, listen to the accents here. And these aren't people saying they want to vote or how they would vote if they could. These are people who are legally allowed to vote in every single one of our elections. Most people don't know this. There are 2.2 billion people in the world who can vote in British elections. If you're from Bangladesh or Pakistan or India and you have a residence in the UK, that means you come here for university to one of these fake universities that, just basically gives you a certificate so you can ride Deliveroo, and you have citizenship from India, Pakistan or Bangladesh, you are legally allowed to vote in UK elections. And that's what we see with an awful lot of these people. The reason I go on and on about their accents is when we see a very limited amount of these people in these interviews, it's probably the only real way we have to actually determine how long they've been here. I mean, that man we just saw speaking with actually a slight Mancunian accent probably is a first-generation immigrant himself, but has been here so long that he's assimilated and even his accent has become British, whereas the others, who are much, much fresher, much newer to our country, they're still holding on to that largely Pakistani accent. And you'll see this here. We'll go back to that man, I think he was a fishmonger or butcher in the background there. He's shouting, yes, I'm voting, and he's voting Labour. And listen to the accent. I guarantee he hasn't been here for long. And he shouldn't have a legal right to vote in our country. That's not a controversial thing to say.
Are you going to be voting next at the election? Who do you want to win?
Labour.
My vote is always for Labour.
Not British.
Maybe I'm Green.
Win.
My vote is always for Labour.
Maybe I'm Green. Last time I voted Labour.
I prefer to vote to the Labour Party. I think the Labour have a good support for the immigrant people.
Matt.
Genuinely, he can barely speak English, that last one there. And the reason he's voting Labour is, I think the Labour have a good support for the immigrant people. This man has a legal right in our democracy. His vote is worth as much as yours, despite the fact he's clearly not British.
Goodwin wants to talk about who is British, who is English, and who is neither. But for some voters here, it is Matt who is the outsider.
And the main thing is Matthew Gorton is imported material.
Matthew Gorton is imported material. Again, we hear another man, clearly an immigrant, clearly an accent from a country like Pakistan, not from here. His parents didn't build this country. His ancestry doesn't go back in this country 1,000 years like Matt Goodwin's does. He didn't even grow up in Manchester. Matt Goodwin grew up in Manchester. But this immigrant has the gall to say Matt Goodwin is imported material because for the last, 15 years of his life, he lived 200 miles south. This man, for the last 30 years of his life, lived 4,000 miles east. And yet Matt Goodwin is the problem because he's imported material.
He's not from Gorton or Denton. He just imported.
I wouldn't vote Reform.
Why is that?
Because the candidate comes from down south, so he doesn't know the area.
And personally, being an immigrant, I'm also against illegal immigration, like the people who's coming on boards and that kind of stuff. I'm paying taxes. So that's hurt me, that my taxes is going to somewhere else which shouldn't be. So yeah, but end of the day, Matthew Gorton is imported material here.
But there is one local man whose name is on many voters' lips, but not on the ballot paper.
Andy Burnham wanted to come and stand for Gorton and Denton elections, and I think so they blocked him. That's a dirty politics.
I genuinely think if Burnham had stood, Labour would have won this election by a landslide. It wouldn't have even been close, but of course Starmer couldn't allow that because he was terrified of a coup against him in the Houses of Parliament. And I hate to say it, rightly so. If Burnham had stood, he would have won. If he won within 6 months, he would have convinced all the cabinet ministers to resign their post, and he'd have 100 Labour signatures calling for a vote of no confidence. It would go to the Parliamentary Labour Party, who hates Starmer as it is, and Starmer would be out of power.
Andy Burnham is very well liked in Manchester.
He's been our mayor for a very long time. He's done good things.
If he'd have been the Labour candidate for Denton and Gorton, it might have been a different outcome.
If he would have come, it would have made a difference. I was going to vote for him. But if he's not there, I'm voting for Reform.
Pretty incredible. there, to be honest. I think this is going to be a very interesting by-election. It's this week as well. It'll be happening in just a few days. I will make a couple more videos. I'll definitely make some videos recapping the actual election, going through the data, looking at the vote and how it splits and who wins and who loses, of course. If you want to stay up to date, follow the real news to get the truth mainlined about the UK right into your veins. Subscribe to this channel, like and comment under this video so my next videos show up for you on the algorithm. And if you want to learn more about Starmer's plan to cancel elections across the entire country and how it was deemed illegal by Starmer's own lawyers, you can click the video on the right hand of the screen here to watch that now. Keir Starmer tried to cancel elections in the UK, and what was his single most anti-democratic and authoritarian action in his life, which is saying a lot for a man who ordered courts to open 24/7, refused bail to peaceful protesters, and sentenced them to longer punishments than violent criminals. But reform